Welcome to Perceptions Today podcast, where we discuss consciousness in all forms. June 2022, episode 29, Eileen Meyer joins us in a roundtable about Kundalini and life, part 1 of 3. Eileen Meyer is a Mystic Poet Songstress Author with experiences in Kundalini, Lucid Dreaming, OBEs, Mayan Wisdom, 5-MeO DMT, and much more.
How do you talk about frequency and knowing and feeling? And because as soon as you translate it, it's just so reduced, and so the essence of it is dead, and then it's also becomes, in the polarized world, it becomes, it's either attacked or it's projected upon. Let's just put it that way. It's like whatever is going on within the individual, if this is something that is stirring up some unconscious wounding and trauma, then it's going to be projected onto me or others like me, that we're doing something bad, and, so on and so forth.
This is an instance of the conversation coming up in the roundtable discussion. Participants knew it was being recorded. Welcome to Perceptions Today. It's 2022, January the 13th, and it's Twitter Space Chat 17 with Eileen Meyer, Imaginal Traveller, a great friend of the community, and also she's here to talk about Kundalini and her life and what goes on. I am your host, Paul, and my co-host, who is Melissa. Introduce yourself, Melissa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa. I'm from CentredAwareness. I'm a psychosomatic therapist and also an energy worker. So I'm really happy to be here. And I'm going to pass the mic over to Eileen.
No, she's not, because I need to read out the guidelines so that everyone's quite happy. And then we'll pass the mic on to Eileen. Quick edit later.
Pass it back to Paul.
You're psychic. If you want to be involved more with the actual account or with the people within the account, or guest speakers as well, worthwhile following them. I will also mention wonderful people to follow who do spaces, podcasts, etc. An example of that is Avogades runs Twitter spaces talking about mysticism, esoteric, and other places. We also have Mike Fiorito, who will be one of our guests soon on 25th of January, talking about his books, experiences, and also other things that have happened in his life. We also have going in other not backwards scenario, because Cosmic Librarian is probably listening, and she's on the 19th of January talking about time and time slips and how it's affected her life. You can hear the recent trailer that I've created. And going back to next week, on Tuesday in the UK, is Marandal talking about his experiences and also talking about being guided by intuition, which is another roundtable. And then on the 8th of February, we have Krista De Mayo, who will be talking about lucid dreaming. And the reason I'm laughing is because normally I do everything in sequence, in chronological, going into the future, rather than going slightly into the future, rolling back into the past, then rolling into the future again to February. And then also in March, we have R.N. Vooght, who will be talking about his books, DMT, brain structures as well. Obviously, we are recording this, so anything you do mention may be used in a podcast. And again, you can always tell us to remove it elsewhere. Now, going back to our guest, Imaginal Traveller.
Hello. I'm really pleased to be asked to be here. And I feel honored to be a guest. And I'm excited about connecting with all of you that gather here. Because the way I see it, we're all exploring this now, and we're sharing our data. We're sharing our notes that aren't necessarily based on all that we were given from the past, but what we're putting together now with our own consciousness, and then also connecting the dots in the external world too, when that it resonates or is relatable. So what would you like me to what would you like me to do? Do you want me to jump through some hoops?
Okay, so to make Eileen jump through hoops, what you can do is request to speak and put a hand up if we haven't already given you access. And what she will probably do is go through a very similar small bio, and then we can work on the framework there. And if anyone sees any connections that they want to jump into, we're quite happy for you to raise your hand and then come in with a question and go from there, if that sounds suitable for yourself.
I would love to go through just kind of an overview and light framing.
And you're happy with people to put their hands up during this, or
yeah.
afterwards?
Well, no, I'd like to get through the overview,
Okay.
and then I'm absolutely
You tell us
welcome
when.
Okay.
So, people, if you get ideas and questions, get your notepads out and pens and write things down. And what we will do is we'll try and visualize which hand went up first. But if you've ever been here before, you will know that between Centered Awareness and myself looking at the screen, sometimes the icons don't appear with their hands up at the same time. And when she's got a hand up on my screen, it's always ignored for some reason.
I'm so glad you admit that.
But I've actually witnessed that. So you have a witness here. Yes.
I live in a different timeline.
Okay.
Right. So on your marks, get set. Which way do you want to be called today anyway? Do you want to keep with your Twitter handle, or... Because I know I'm going to get myself tripped up backwards and forwards.
You can do either. I don't care.
Fine.
Okay. Yeah,
on your marks, get set. Imaginal.
Okay. So I love, first of all, I love how Paul, Perceptions Today host, had what he decided to call this sharing today. From me, and it's Kundalini and life. It's just kind of it's this big open container for all that I attempt to share, and I do my best to share. I am a lifetime contactee. I remember being very much in alignment with these tall, angel, wispy, blue and gold beings. I mostly remember it in the sandbox.
Could I just pause you there, and could I ask you, do you either have a fabulous beaded bracelet on or beaded necklace on?
No, usually when I do sessions or mentoring sessions, I have my beads on. Because
I can hear it rustling against either your microphone or it's being picked up in some way.
It's probably just rubbing on a zipper. Thank you.
It's okay. We had this with Anthony Peake on our last one, and we thought it was a squeaky chair, but then we worked out that it was microphone against zipper.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd be a podcast of people going, was she rocking backwards and forwards in a chair? Or was it a squeaky zipper? And then we have to do one of these giveaway prizes for those people who got it right.
Okay, thank you. What I attempt to share, the platform that I share from now, is my place after looking back over my entire life to watch the arc of evolution from a lifetime, which hasn't ended. Obviously, it's still going. It's still coming together, and every day I am able to express it in either a different way or a more enhanced way, because I'm growing, I'm changing with this relationship with what we've often been calling other, right? It did come in the form, in my perception, of extraterrestrials. It came in the form of these angels. It was off and on over my life. And now through the new podcast that I have started, I am going to take all of what I have recorded or documented, 35 plus years, I have documented this. And I wrote my first book to kind of lay the platform out for what this life has been about and what I have learned and am learning. The podcast will be more like my data dump of what I have learned and what I am translating from the field, if you will. The beings have shown me that this is our natural state. And the reason why they enter in and attempt to reach us in the variety of ways that they do is because they simply want to nudge us or shove us out of our programming. And they want us to know that our original design is one that is more like an instrument. Our body is an instrument, and we are able to sing along with the universal song, to harmonize with it, or we are out of phase with our natural state and out of phase with the universal song. So I'm a singer-songwriter, and I always wanted to sing. This started passionately at about age 11. I had guidance about how to sing, but that's another whole long story. I do have that reference in my book. So Kundalini occurred because it was one of the manifestations of this presence working with me over my life. That was when I call it the full Kundalini awakening on October 31st, 1998. That was not an isolated event. That was just a major event. And what led up to that was all the contact, all the downloads, and bioenergetic events that I couldn't explain, and I had no one to talk to about because it didn't fit in any category, any known category here. So I was on my own, or in relation to this intelligence. So what I'm doing now, just to kind of wrap it up, the overview, is I am still integrating the major bioenergetic Kundalini event in 1998. It completely transformed my consciousness. I did not know that at the time. I was just trying to deal with the changes in me and all the music that was coming. I wrote dozens of songs, and I was not really a songwriter at that time. I had dabbled in it, but it was like this portal opened, and it was all of this music, the lyrics and the melody and the chords. I didn't even know how to play the piano. I did when I was a child, but I hadn't played the piano in many, many years. So I was basically sitting there after the event, hunting and pecking on the keyboard that I did have that was dusty and ignored and with stuff piled up on top of it. I had to figure out what was happening to me and what all this music was. So I'm just trying to tap into different things in my life, but I'm in the process of trying to weave it all together through the podcast. And it's not that I'm saying, I know a lot of stuff and you should listen to me. It's, man, oh man, have I learned a lot. And I want to share this so much with you because it's about you. It isn't about me. It's about humanity. And do you know how difficult it is to translate this without triggering people who have an established viewpoint or, a way of being? It is very challenging. It is very unpopular for the most part. The viewpoint of the essence, the soul, the feminine is people get pretty charged up around it and get triggered by it. But this is really what's missing from our consciousness now And translating it is a very tricky thing. So I'm going to do my best today. And I know that there are people here with us today that are going to resonate with what I'm saying. And they're going to have their own way of interpreting this. And hallelujah. We wouldn't want just one way to interpret this. This is about each and every one of us remembering this connection to the field and to this light. Okay.
I've put your podcast in the shared document above.
Thank you so much.
So that people will be able to pick it up from there as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm working on episode 2 right now. I'm also taking 3 courses at the local college here. I do my mentoring. I call it Kundalini or Koyopa mentoring. Koyopa is the Mayan word. I also have a background in Mayan studies. And it's the Mayan word which I resonated with more, their definition of this bioenergetic event. But yeah, thank you. And I'm just open for a discussion and a sharing.
Excellent. Let's start. We got a hand up. Good. Mike. Good evening.
Yes. Good evening. And
whichever time zone you want to be in.
I guess
Hi, Mike.
I'm in, good afternoon. How are you? I'm so glad I was able to make it.
I'm doing wonderfully, thanks.
Sometimes it's
Me
hard.
too.
Yeah. I loved what you said. And I just read a really great book, and I think it'll resonate with you, by Diana Pasulka. It's called American Cosmic, and she's a professor of religion and philosophy. It's a very profound book. But one of her ideas is that, and she's sort of talking to different scientists like Jacques Vallée and people who are in the field, that the human body is that our body is a kind of, in a way, is a kind of spaceship, is the UFO, is the way that we communicate to. We've been looking here and there, and we're looking at, things up in the sky, but through music, and I've written about this before I had read any of her stuff, or really got into this stuff in the way I have been recently. So I loved what you had to say, and I'd encourage you to take a look at her book. It may be something that would resonate with you, and as you say, we're all in the conversation and trying to expand the conversation. So I'm looking forward to reading your work and hearing more of what you have to say.
Thank you, Mike. Likewise. Yeah, I'm just so excited about those of us who are stepping into more of our originality, to be an original rather than a regurgitator. It's like I'm fascinated by what people are bringing through or discovering in a joyful, excited way, because that's a reflection of our natural state. This is the data that needs to come through now. And this is what this intelligence is guiding me to do. And when I say guiding, it's in our natural state, it's pure inspiration, it's passion, it's joy. And it pours through, and we get to be the artist, right, artisan? We get to be the artist that shapes it, colors it. I create the melodies pour through me. I'm painting, I'm dancing, I'm however I want to bring this into form. It's really about the artistry of how we want to do that and how we want to celebrate this reconnection with this light and this source at the center of our being. So, excellent. I am aware of Pasulka, or however you say that, Mike. I did hear her several years ago on a podcast, and I went, ooh, resonance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like you recognize the resonance in the external world. This is how we flip ourselves, and we begin to, once we anchor our own connection to source, if you will, then we can resonate with persons, places, and things in the external world. And then that's what builds unity. That's what unifies us instead of the mistakes and misunderstandings when we're not connected to source or to the field.
Now,
Totally
Mike,
agree.
before obviously Sandra gets in, she's the same woman that was researching with the Vatican, wasn't she?
Correct. That's what her book
Sorry,
is about.
it's nice to get somebody a mid-gulp of a cup of a tea.
Sorry about
or
it. I can't
something.
believe
No.
Yeah.
It's just good timing, I feel, by myself.
It wasn't whiskey.
Don't say that, because then we'll just have to believe it was. All right. Okay. Centered awareness.
I think, was there someone before me?
No, I've got you correctly at this time, because Artisan put her hand up after you had your hand up.
After
if
me?
you saw Artisan doing that. Unless you want me to
Okay.
ignore you and let Artisan jump the queue.
No. I just wanted to ask, because I had an experience, this is going back years and years and years ago now, when I first, when microchips first landed in my lap. And I can't remember exactly, but I remember I was just researching a whole heap of things and it was really upsetting me. And gosh, this is going back at least 8-10 years. And it was really upsetting me. And I thought, I've just got to keep on meditating. But I started to go through a lot of different information to research. I was guided to look at this and look at that and look into this. And different beings was one of the things that I was guided to. And then I just want to, because I don't know if this was a Kundalini experience, but there was a point where all the dots just went and I started crying, but the crying was out of joy, like, oh my gosh, I get it. Because I started to listen to a lot of the different races and how we've got the good ones and we've got the bad ones. And I thought this makes sense in regards to why our world is being controlled the way it is. And, you know, and microchips, like who would have thought of that? Because it's inhumane. And I was like, this will make sense. So I started crying, but it was like, I remember I just kept on saying, oh my God, I get it. I get it. I get it. And so I don't know if it was like the penny just dropped. So I don't know if that was a Kundalini experience. So my question is, when you had your experience, was it an emotional experience for yourself?
Excellent question, Melissa. Yes. So what this intelligence has been helping me to understand and embody, because you see the bioenergetic events are about cleansing, purifying, and creating these openings so that we can embody what would you like to call it? So that we can embody our higher self, so that we can embody our soul, so that we can be a vehicle for source, light itself, because this is how we were designed. So the joy is an indicator of this energy moving through us. At the same time, it's always evolving and expanding and growing. And the issue that I have had with the material that exists, that has come from our past, is it's saying, okay, it's called Kundalini, and let's go read a few things from the Indian mystics, and then we'll all know what Kundalini is. Well, if you ask people who have had Kundalini events, you will find that there are as many interpretations of Kundalini as there are people, you know, the direct experiencers. But common denominators are it can be ecstatic. It can also be terrifying and painful, because when this energy moves through you, it's going to say, oops, look what you got going on here. And it's probably a good idea if you give this attention. See, so the major event for me in 1998 was probably the 247th experience of energy moving through me and showing me where I'm blocked, showing me where it's flowing. So it's an intelligence within us that wants to help us expand and remember who we are. So when you got those click, 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 click feelings within, absolutely, it's that same intelligence within you that I would say that I've also referred to it as the goddess, as the feminine, the divine feminine, this technology within us that has been suppressed. And we are all programmed to look away from it and to devalue it so that we can participate in this. I want to go into explaining what they showed me in my mind's eye. But I'll put that on hold for a moment to see. Melissa, did I address that?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you said that it can be terrifying, I think the terrifying part for me was coming across the information in regards to why we're being controlled, and some people are going to be more opening to that and seeing that than others. And so for me, especially with all the David Icke stuff, I was like, how am I even being guided to look into this? I didn't even know who this guy was, and microchips and all of that kind of stuff. So that was terrifying for me. And that's why I kept on saying, just meditate, keep meditating, you know how to calm your mind, And I think, pardon me, because I was meditating while I was researching the information and things like that, I think that's what helped with the awakening as well. And yeah, I just remember going, oh my God, I get it. And that wasn't the terrifying part. That was the everything connects. I'm no longer afraid. I have a complete understanding now. I was happy. And that's why when this came around, this wave of information with COVID 2 years ago, it was almost as if I knew something was coming. And I think that's when you're saying, you know, the information evolves and things like that, and we expand. I felt as if I knew something was coming, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But then as soon as I saw, you know, or I heard, you know, COVID this and and whatever, I was just like, this is it. This is it. This is what I felt was coming. I knew it, and I wasn't afraid. Whereas the first time I looked into things and I came across all the information, I was petrified. And then when people are talking vaccines and what's in them and things like that, it was almost as if I was prepared for all of this information. Yeah, but I digress. That's my contribution. We can pass it on to artisans.
Yeah, if I could just respond. Yes, the awakening, the many layers of awakening. So a lot of us are, so many people are awakening on a cultural level. Like we're going, oh my God, we're being controlled. Oh my God. You know, and it's like this huge awakening. Yet from what you're saying, Melissa, you're also talking about, I just know things, right? And do you know how many times I have heard that from all the people that I connect with? We all knew something was coming. And that doesn't mean that we're going, it's the end of the world. That's laughable. It's that, oh boy, we're coming into something that's going to change everything, you know, and it's reflected in the messages that I bring through, the downloads, and I translate the downloads from this intelligence. And it was like, it wasn't saying, get ready for the end of the world. It was saying, okay, how prepared are you to be balanced and in connection with your source, tethered to the divine, so that you know what you need to know when you need to know it, right?
And
you're getting that
well.
guidance. Yeah.
To quickly be brief on top of that one, because obviously there was a little bit of confusion on previous conversation that we had, not between you and I. the information that these people were feeling was something to them rather than going out having to proclaim it elsewhere and make money out of it, wasn't it? It's more of that kind of, it's your personal feeling. Imagine.
Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because it got misconstrued elsewhere that it was more of a,
which happens quite often. And it's something that it's just like, this is the way it happens for me. And for others I know that speak from this space, it has a tendency to, I want to talk about emotions too, in how this intelligence points to our emotional nature as where the power is, where the shift happens.
So we're bringing an Artesian on this one as well, because I think from our previous conversation before we started, it will marry up really well.
Wonderful.
Yes, honestly, this is the one thing that I can state emphatically is that the awareness is upon us. It is there's a law of understanding that's coming, and it's beginning to influence everyone culturally and individually of who we all are. But the one thing that, as you well know, every one of us that are speaking and bringing this information forward is that we're all saying the same thing. We're just saying it differently based upon, who we individually are. I've had many of the same experiences that you have had. 3 years old, and I'm speaking to angels, ascended ones. And it's just, I've been an observer of energy all of my life. And some of the, everything I learned in life came from nature. I think there's this point where we take and look at, there's a part of ourselves where we kind of ignore that experience, and people will hold on to the belief instead of allowing that experience, such as with Kundalini rising, an awareness that is coming, that can trigger, like you had said, triggers different things in us. And sometimes people will step back and they become afraid and they shut that opening down, because spirit will always interact with us. Pain is the universe's way of getting our attention. And the idea of being in alignment, in harmony, in balance with how the universe actually speaks to us in many capacities comes forward, where that harmony and that healing and miracles are simply a byproduct because we listen. We step forward in that understanding, and we allow this input or downloads, as people call them, to take a look at. And that's all I'd like to say, is just put that out there, because we are all saying the same thing. It's an ecosystem. It's a spider's web. And some may resonate with one more than another, but the major thing is the beauty and the harmony and the synchronicity and the cohesion of it all is just absolutely beautiful. Thank you.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you, Artisan.
I just had a deja vu. I've never been in a room with Artisan, and the bizarre thing is, it only lasted for a second. The bizarre thing is, I remember looking at all of the icons on here, and then my eyes went over to yours, Eileen, your icon, and I could hear Artisan's voice. And I was like, that's bizarre. I've never heard her voice in the space before. I've never been in the same space before on Twitter. But I just had this deja vu that lasted like a split second or two.
We only encountered ourselves about 2.5 hours ago. And even then, that's how she's wandered into synchronistically into here.
Don't you love it? I love it.
Yeah, and then she even mentioned synchronicities, and I was like, stop, this is getting too crazy for me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad she mentioned synchronicities too, because synchronicities are just like what did I translate that as? They're like the signs. It's like all the little signs in the foyer before we fully enter this living in that way. So it's like we don't go, oh, look at that fun synchronicity. It's just like, oh, this is the way life works. So it's like we're adapting to a whole way of being, and synchronicities are just these little fun little signs,
And the fact she's talking about pain pushing you in different directions, and also you don't have to be in balance with the universe for the universe to push you into doing things.
Yes.
Just rocks me, because we've had discussions about this, and the universe has pushed quite a few of us in different directions and to do things, as we all know in here. And that really just fits right on point with everything. Have you been secretly listening to our podcasts, Artisan?
Actually, no, but this is the fun about it, is because like you guys are working in a different area. We're all doing the same thing, and I'm like over here, you guys are over there, but we're all saying, and it's all resonating. And it's like the one thing, it's like when I was talking about, that pain thing triggered, all is whether it is physical, emotional, mental, or even astral. Those are those aspects that the universe says, hey, wait a minute. Whether it could be your spirit guides, it could be angels themselves. They will trigger things so that we stop for just a moment and say, wait a second, and step back into that present moment for just that moment of time and go, what's going on here? What do I have to be aware of? I'm a very big one. I've just finished a book, getting ready to figure out how it's going to be published. But I speak directly on that aspect of how we are bringing things into manifestation just by how we speak, just by how we recognize and bringing that focus. And it all has to do with energy, with Kundalini, how certain things are triggered within each and every one of us. Because face it, we all get results. We think, we feel, we imagine. We get results, but are they really the end results that we'd really like to see? And so this is that part where I focus on, because this is the energy that I draw upon. But it really is right now, people are being triggered in many, many different capacities all around the world. And it's going to take each and every one of us to, let our voices be heard and say, hey, we're here for you, and help wherever we can, or give us slight direction. That's all it is. We're all working together cohabitantly.
Again, beautifully, beautifully said, Artisan. I'm celebrating this at this time now too, how we're all the way that I have shared this on my blog in the past is in all the writing that I have done, is that we're all experiencers now, because our lives are being interrupted. Now, I could call myself an experiencer over the years, because these other beings would come and interrupt my life repeatedly. And it kept changing me so that I couldn't pretend anymore. It's like,
can you just do the story about your sandpit and the age, because that has kind of fit exactly with Artesian.
Yeah, when I was a child, it was innate. It was something that was just natural, right?
Yeah, but and the age that you were, because
I was probably from age 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, because it's very similar to what she was just saying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was about 3, and angels would appear, and I'd be talking with them, and it was right after I was 3 years old, and I had a near-death experience, and then at the age of 6, I had a near-death experience. But everything that I had already seen as far as energy and all of that, the only thing that those things did were enhance my awareness as an observer of energy. But this is, like I said, I literally have done this and studied this stuff all of my life. I had no choice. There was no other way to be. And nobody saw the world, the way I did. It was very feelings of just being very, very isolated, I think. And so, I've lost my daughter. I didn't lose her. I didn't misplace her. Okay, like a set of keys. But she's passed at 25 years old. And it was difficult, I will tell you, because of just grief, to raise that vibration up where I would be able to specifically contact her. And at the point, I actually wasn't able to reach and talk to the Ascended Masters. And it was one of the most loneliest, devastating places I could ever imagine to say. And it wasn't until it was to the point where I said, enough was enough. I'm done. And worked very diligently, raised my vibration again. And honestly, they've been my guides all of my life. And then for a brief moment, not to be able to communicate with them was devastating for me.
I understand, and I'm sorry about that difficulty, but I am also aware that pain is what moved you and changed you and transformed you. So in essence, it's a gift, right? When we live these kinds of lives, we recognize that these very difficult times are the gifts. When we're triggered, that's a gift. It's a gift to go within and say, okay, what is this? I know it's me. I know it's my, physical, emotional response. So I want to know what's the truth here. So it always comes back to truth, right? It's like as long as we are inquiring, within and being truthful about who we are, we will continue to expand and grow. But you know what, Artisan, it's really nice to meet you. We're all meeting each other now. The ones who have felt completely isolated and alone, upside down, inside out, in this reality, in this world, at this threshold of when COVID began, we are all coming into our power. We are all coming into visibility. And we are being heard and seen now. And it's not that people don't still react and get agitated with us and attack us, and they still do those things. I don't experience that as much now, but the difference is we're not triggered, or we're triggered very little. I'll still notice, like, ooh, I feel a little bit of a pain there. I wonder what that is, and so again, investigate. So the time is shortened now. It used to take years to understand something or to integrate something. And now with the attention that Artisan is speaking of, this witnessing, this observing, as long as we're observing ourselves and we're staying true and in integrity with that self that we are strengthening, we can correct these things almost immediately. And this is what takes us higher, or what people refer to as ascension. I try not to use the old New Age terms because I witness people reacting to them. I witness people going, oh, that's just a bunch of blah, 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 and it's like, oh, but that's just a word. Sorry, I'll use a different word next time. So navigating all of this has been an incredible journey, and it's wonderful to meet you, Artisan, and all of you who I'm sure many of you are resonating with what we're saying too, because you ended up here. You're a part of this group.
Because also, sorry, I thought there was a gap there. The delay in here is always wonderful. Had I ever talked to you, Artisan?
Yes, no, it's absolutely just, it's positively beautiful, the energy that everybody is putting out with this, and people are taking some of the things that we're saying under consideration and so on and so forth. I'm telling you, it's like, I'm truly honored to be a part of this space that you guys are all hosting. I thank you very, very much, and I thank you for allowing me to say hello. Honestly, thank you. And I am resonating with you guys big time, so thank you.
Oh, Jess, thank you for being here. I mean, what you tend to find within the rooms, we haven't found anyone people trying to pull the wool over other people's eyes about situations or emotional content. It all seems to be so genuine. One of the things I wanted Imaginal to talk about was the beings and the color and the description that she saw as a child, and also how, after me telling you about the correlation between Mayan Dahl's paintings and his imagery, and also the way that R.N. Vooght has also been talking about deities as well, and the whole kind of almost tying it all together, and also Dreaming Jaguars, Paul Duval's DMT trips are seeing similar beings of similar colors and descriptions.
Well, you did mention that Mayan Dahl had some paintings of blue and gold beings, but I wasn't able to go back and find that. But I, of course, that gives me joy when you reminded me of that. I have also had other people, when they hear me talk about those beings, just go, "Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. I know who they are." There's just a recognition. But one of the things that my connection, my guidance has emphasized over the years is in my translating. Again, I'm not to use existing words and frames. Although I did try and pour it into some known and existing frames and containers, because I just didn't, in the earlier days, I just didn't know, how to talk about this. How do you talk about frequency and knowing and feeling? And because as soon as you translate it, it's just so reduced, and so the essence of it is dead, and then it's also becomes, in the polarized world, it becomes, it's either attacked or it's projected upon. Let's just put it that way. It's like whatever is going on within the individual, if this is something that is stirring up some unconscious wounding and trauma, then it's going to be projected onto me or others like me, that we're doing something bad, and, so on and so forth. And then there's also the, like when I was a rock and roll singer in bands for many years in Southern California, there was a lot of projection on me about, oh, you're so talented, and your hair is amazing, and the way, when you rock on stage, and it's like, what? And I'm singing about things that are, secretly singing about things that are so deep and, like what artists do, right? we try and say things in ways that are like, okay, this is a rock song, so it's really cool, and let's all be cool. But we can sneak these things in, right? Does the host have a question?
He has. He was just going to say that I think most of the people that are experiencing those things are not just automatically diving in and believing it. You're kind of going from the point of view of trying to disprove it first off, and then come across from a structured way of investigating it, not just blind belief, aren't you? from the way that you were going on with your examination and talking about the events that you've had, because obviously there are some people that would just dive off and think any experience is so genuine. Most people are kind of going, why is this happening to me? And then try and figuring it out along those lines, aren't they?
Well, I write in my book, Koyopa Contact Within, The Plumed Serpent Rises. That's the name of my book, published in 2017. I write about what this was like, trying to figure out what's happening to you in actuality, the direct experience. And then how do I talk about it with another human being? Then you start, of course, we had the internet starting in the latter part of the 90s, I guess it was. We could start to search for what do other people say. And then we always had books, of course. And I did. That was the only time in my life that I read, well, except for when I was a child, read a lot of books because I was desperately trying to find something that would speak to what I was directly experiencing. And while I did resonate with pieces of what people would share, nothing was, a cookie cutter, template kind of thing that I could just go, oh, well, of course, that's ETs and that's contact and and this is called Kundalini and this is what Kundalini means. These were my lessons throughout my life, that it isn't that way at all. All we can do is have the direct experience and the direct relationship with whatever these manifestations are, right? So the ETs, there was terror at a certain point in my life because I had been conditioned enough to build the chasm again. So the direct connection and relationship with the blue and gold angel beings, that was now buried inside of me. And so when the contact started happening again at a certain point, it would bring up that fear and that unconscious and no, we're not supposed to talk about this. We're supposed to pretend it's not here and put this face on and interface with this very bizarre world. And just pretend like everything's great. I just got a new car and I have a great job and we're buying a house next month. I did all of that. I not that there's anything wrong with those things, but you know what I mean? It's like I tried to fit, and the more I tried to fit, the more distant I became from my natural state. And this happens to all of us. This isn't just my story, right?
I just want to quickly check with Melissa. Is Imaginal's audio just changed in sound?
No, she sounds perfect.
Okay, it's all on my end at the moment. Also, Mike Fiorito has just supplied me with the link for Myron Dahl's paintings, which will give you a link in the shared section above. So I've put that up above with Mike's obviously handled there and everything else that goes with it. And thank you very much for supplying that, Mike.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mike. But what I want to hop to here, if I may, is that this came to a crisis point. The two people that I was trying to be, essentially, in my life, brought me to the 1998 full Kundalini awakening. And it was because I attempted suicide, because I could not integrate these pieces of myself. I wanted to be who I was, even though I was a pretty cool rocker chick singing original material with a 7-piece awesome band in Southern California. That wasn't enough for me. And I felt myself having to put a mask on or a face on in order to perform, right? I was very aware of when I went into performance mode versus authentic streaming, really, of who I am. Hold on, I got a cough. I need to get something to drink.
If you want, we can just give you the opportunity to drink, and we will just quickly mention some of the people that are in the room if you want the opportunity to.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, Centered Awareness, I hope you would join with me in saying hello to Jeffrey. He's back.
Hello, Jeffrey.
Long time no see. And also, Wild Eyes, nice to see you here. John, nice to see you. Naomi, nice to see the regulars coming back. And also, nice to see the very new people here. And hopefully people are getting
there. I want to say hi to Avogardus as well, because I haven't seen him in our space or been in any of his for a while.
He's at work. He's back. Right.
Is he working right now? So I can't really talk.
It's all good. I just wanted to say hi.
Just turn us up on full volume to let everyone hear us. Just do that. That'll help your work day. You either get ejected very quickly. So anyway, Adhamana, nice to see you there. Thanks for the responses, which is good. And also, Mike, I presume you're going well with organization. And the poem that you were talking about that you put on Instagram and having it read is a fantastic one that I think will be done on the 25th. So happy about that.
Well, great. Thanks. Yeah, I think just reading some of the pieces, excerpts would be helpful in, framing conversation. And just like you guys are all having great input and conversation, I certainly don't want to be the only person talking. I would love to get other people's input.
Mike, I don't think you'd have the opportunity to be the only person talking. We're all quite happy to jump in, put hands up, and we'll all be asking questions left, right, and center.
Awesome. Great.
It's only me that gets to hear the tumbleweeds when I ask questions back, and all the icons do nothing. That's the fun part.
You're such a victim, Paul.
Damn the universe. Anyway, continue.
Tries to make me feel bad, but I never do. Sorry.
So sorry.
She never does her homework either, never turns up on time. You know what it's like. Co-hosts, 4 o'clock in the morning to them. I mean, they get up, which is great. It's fantastic that she does turn up.
It is.
I appreciate you.
I'm very impressed.
Thank you. See,
hey,
someone appreciates it.
Can I just break in for a moment? I'm starting to have some issues here on the net or whatever. So if I bow out, it's because I'm really having issues. And I just like to say thank you in case I don't get a chance to come back in. Thank you guys, man. I'm telling you, I'm sending love and light, and just, this is a phenomenal space. And please, follow me. I'd love to have a conversation with you. It's fantastic. Thank you.
And thank you for all you've shared, Artisan, and all you will share in our future gatherings. It's wonderful to meet you and have you here.
I keep my fingers crossed that it doesn't happen and that you do get to stay here, which is good.
Yeah. So I think I was just, I was at the suicide part, right? A very pivotal moment in my life where I knew that I could not live right on that old way of framing my life. And I knew that I had to integrate something that I couldn't explain. And that's pretty terrifying, especially when you don't have anybody to, bounce it off of, right? I was going to a 3-year energy healing school during that time, and I was growing and expanding in that way. That was what I was gonna be, an energy healer. And then once the 1998 Kundalini event occurred, and all the music started coming, it was all I could do just to keep up with creating, putting these into song form, and then all the synchronicities that happened that brought an amazing producer into my life, Larry Mitchell, and helped me to put these songs together. Very long story, but I started to be who I really was, right? Or I was attempting to do that to the best of my ability. I was practicing authenticity at that point. because you can't go back once you reorient and you get a taste and continued openings and tastes of love. And I talk a lot about love, and I notice that even that triggers people. Like, love? What do you mean love? There's a divine love that permeates all things, and it's in us too. And this is the whole point and inspiration of the podcast, because I want to help people step by step through my story to understand what it is that I came to know and understand and accept. And this platform that I stand from now, this new foundation of living with love integrated back into my being and expressing that in all the ways that I'm inspired to, and loving it when I witness other people taking that step as well and doing and being that in the world. I want to say one more thing that keeps coming, right? So I have to take the time to share this. This is one of the major things that has been shared with me in my third eye, my mind's eye, because once you have these larger events, your brain opens and you start to perceive and you reorient to life entirely. What I've been shown repeatedly in these download transmissions is that it's more like there's this light grid that runs through all of the universe and through Earth and through all the planets, and it's the real grid. It's the natural grid.
Can I just pause you on that one? Because I got something I can throw in on that one.
Sure.
So you've heard me talk of Anthony Peake having an experience with the Lucia light machine and basically making the brain dump DMT into your system. Remember? Imaginal.
I know.
Okay. So two guys decided to design it. One, because he had a near-death experience at 6 and he was at the bottom of a pool. It was all nice, white, calm and collected. And he wanted to redo that with engineering. And they took a 1930s idea of putting a disc, putting a cylinder that was on a rotating gramophone record with slits in it and producing light through it to produce the frequency. But when Anthony was subjected to it, the world kind of dropped away from him. Then he started to see kind of the shape of a sphere of the Earth with the continents and everything else in it. Then suddenly it was overlaid with these blue lines of energy in a grid work pattern similar to the things that you're just describing. So this is quite fascinating that it clicks into place with the description.
Oh, like that. Thank you.
And he's done this on YouTube, that actual video and bit. He's actually got it in his YouTube channel of him experiencing it and talking to the guy who's just given him the experience with the machine.
Cool. Great. I'll have to look that up. But mainly what they were showing me in these communion states is that the grid that we're attached to, this construct, this false grid, is like being in a prison, because we're not aware that we're simply out of phase with the natural grid, and it's all sound, it's all frequency based, and being out of phase with it isn't a matter of, I have to do this, and this in order to be spiritual. It's tell the truth is what the beings have been saying all these years. Speak with honesty, speak the truth of what you actually feel. This generates resonance. If you do this enough and you do this on a regular basis, this is what generates resonance. This is what lights up in you. And this is what helps you phase back in to the truth and the natural grid, the true grid. This false reality, this false, like kind of like this pit that we fell into, we just keep getting pummeled with the programming that this is reality and this is what you do and this is what you say and this is your authority here, so listen to the authorities. It's everything is externalized, and so we think this is reality, but it's not. When we start to feel, when we know what we feel, they said this early on, know what you feel so that you can feel what you know. So it's an understanding of resonance and vibration and phasing back into your natural state. And that's what so many of these interactions are about. These ET interactions, anything paranormal. If your reaction to it is terror, then dive into it and say, okay, I've been triggered. What is it here that I need to know? How can I come back to balance with my own power and strength so that I am not even affected by this BS, right? I'm being very careful, Paul, not to cuss.
That's good, because otherwise I'll boot you out and I'll just have the conversations on my own.
I get very passionate.
You're allowed to be passionate.
You cussing.
What?
I can't imagine you cussing.
Oh yeah, I get all fired up and
When I've had conversations on my own with her, my ears are just burning and I just have to go and wash my mouth out first.
Stop. Okay, so I'm gonna just stop for now, unless I'm asked a question, but I'd love to hear from more people.
I had a question, but I think Artisans was first.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm just hoping I don't lose you guys here, but I think the major thing of what you were saying there is where you have it. It's vibration, rhythm, and frequency, and it's the three of them. It's when we speak about that resonance and how can I say this? The energy in and of itself is a language. It's a culture. It truly is. How does the universe hear us? And whether it be ETs, whether it be anything of energy hears us, it could be an animal. There's that frequency and that rhythm, and there's the language. There truly is, and it is that resonance that you were speaking of. And it's like I love how you were actually expressing that, because actually that's what I write about is that that shift. It's we as humans have a spiritual logic, but so does the universe. And the two don't necessarily match. The universe will only deliver from its octave, from its position or its function under which law or which energy or which frequency. And it's like the more people get to understand themselves, their relationship, their I am presence, their the energy around them, it's just we live in this entire beautiful cosmos of energy, and it's like we can always feel that resonance. It's that knowingness, feeling that knowing. I love how I wish you would restate that, because that was just like 100% accurate. It was like right on. So thank you.
Thank you, Artisan. Don't know if I can repeat it.
Hang on one second. We've got a way of working within the room, which is we put our hands up and then we get around to actual questions. At the moment, we have two people up with their hands at present. So what will happen is we will get to you once you put your hand up. And obviously, you need to keep on topic with what's going on. Otherwise, we just have to ask you to just go back as a listener if it's not on topic with what's going on. So, centered awareness.
This is going back to when you were saying to just speak the truth, and that's what you were being guided with. there's not a lot of things, there's not a lot that triggers me, but one thing that really triggers me is when people are being dishonest, and you can pick up on that. And I think being an empath, I'm very sensitive to the truth. Like if people are lying, you can sense it. And I was triggered last night when I was online, and someone was claiming that he was Jesus, right? It's not the first time I've come across someone who was claiming that he was Jesus and these past lives and all this stuff. And then I thought, you know what? There are so many lies going on in the world. Why would you create something like this? But then again, I was like, who am I to judge? Because this is his truth, right? So I commented. I didn't want to. I didn't mean to. It just happened. Because I was like, if someone's going to lie, I'm going to bring you to that. And anyway, so I said, I started quizzing him on Jesus, and I wanted to see how well he knew him, right? And he didn't know much about him at all. And I thought, well, then how can you claim to be this person, this being, when you don't really know much about him? So stop spreading all of this disinformation when you know what's your intention. So then I noticed, hang on, I'm being triggered here. What's going on? And I was having this conversation with myself saying, well, because I want him to be truthful, and he's not being truthful, and there's enough, lies spinning around at the moment as well. And why add to that? People are confused as it is. People are scared as it is. So yeah, I don't know if that was, because I thought to myself, normally when I see things and people sharing disinformation, I keep going, I keep scrolling, I just ignore it. But for some reason, I was so drawn to this and attached myself to it, where I had to get him to straighten up. So I don't know. Could you help me out with that? Like I recognized I was triggered, but I couldn't figure out why I couldn't just let it go and let him. That's his journey. That's his truth. Yeah. So I don't know if you'll.
Yeah, it's always a moment by moment series of choices, right? It's like I relate to what you just said, Melissa, where you can scroll and you can just go, oh yeah, look, this person's saying that again, and it's like, oh well, that's just what they're doing, and we don't give it any energy or attention. What I've noticed, I can't speak for you, but I've noticed in my own life, I always fall back on that. Okay, when I have a reaction within me, there's some aspect of what that person is doing that I'm doing. Not a direct mirror, not a, absolute direct reflection. There's some element of it that I'm getting triggered because, and I'll usually ask myself at that point, and using, your example, I would say, okay, as I help people, I teach the dialogue that the beings taught me about how to, reconnect with the rest of ourself and the rest of our relations, cosmic relations, if you will. It's like the dialogue, it would be, okay, I'm here, I'm noticing I'm being triggered. And is there some area of my life that I could be more straightforward about? How can I be more honest? How can I better represent the truth of who I am? Or how am I, maybe it's the opposite of that. How am I not claiming more this light that I am? Or do I back off from it? Do I have self-deprecating kind of behavior, right? Do I say, oh, I have this little thing that I do, and I have written about this, and I do this and that, but I'm nobody, So it can be a more direct reflection, or it can be the opposite. it's just something to dive. It's like a diving in point. And when we start to take responsibility for all of how we are reacting or responding to the environment, to persons, places, and things around us here, when we take full responsibility for that, it rapidly accelerates us in our consciousness and in our awareness, to the point where anybody can say anything and we're unfazed, because we are anchored in this light again, in this truth of who we actually are. Truth breaks the spell is what I've translated quite often. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, and while you were talking as well, I think, so I think I know where this has come from. We had a previous conversation where it was in a direct message, and he was telling me that he knew information and what have you. And I was just listening to him. I was letting him have his say. And then he started saying things like, oh, yeah, I've got the highest clearance. And in my mind, I was like, well, then if you have the highest clearance, this was my first red flag. In my mind, I was saying, well, if you have the highest clearance, then why and how would you be sharing this kind of information with me? Right? And at one point and I even said that to him as well. And he was like, oh, well, because you're on the frequency where you can receive this information. And in my mind as well, I was like, yeah, but then if I had the highest clearance, I wouldn't be sharing anything, especially with someone you haven't met. And so that was my first red flag. And then I let that slide. So for me, I started to lose credibility for anything he said. And when I saw him claiming he was Jesus, I was just like, yep, okay, now you've lost me completely. And I think that's why I jumped on to say, no, hang on, you're not going to get away with this, because this is wrong. And this is not, you've already claimed these certain things to me. And yeah, so I think that's where my first trigger was. And I wanted to just jump on it, whereas normally I wouldn't have.
Yeah, if I may, what I am perceiving is that you actually, you knew this way before any of it unfolded, because that's what you've talked about, that awareness.
That's the
as a
energy
child.
I was receiving. Yeah.
You already knew this, right? And so you chose to explore it and swim in it, play with it, right? It's not good or bad. It's just, well, let me just take this the next step. What does that feel like, right? But in essence, you already knew. Your red flag was, this doesn't feel right. This is not accurate. Am I to enter in? Am I to participate in it or not? And so even that's a choice. Sometimes I will get an inspiration to say something.
Yeah.
And so we also need to be attuned to that, right? How can we, sometimes we're here to just step in and go, point these things out in a very gentle and benevolent way. It doesn't have to be an argument. If it's an argument, then that's your red flag, right? That's absolutely our own thing that we have to own once we start fighting.
Because that's ego then as well.
Yes.
And then you're really triggered. Yeah. No, it was just questions. It was just quizzing pretty much. Yeah. And the answers that were coming back I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to, it was more like, you need to know that I've caught you, I've worked you out, kind of a thing.
That I see you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, that's probably a bit of ego as well, but it was more, I don't like people lying, and if you're going to lie, you're not going to get away with it.
No, I agree, and it's up to us to always be as truthful as possible, and that's our first job, is to be as honest and truthful as possible with ourselves and with each other, because that's what breaks the spell here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Unfortunately, you've been away for such a long time. I haven't said your name for ages. So forgive me if I get this wrong. Afire?
Ifer. Oh, sorry.
It's been such a long time.
Yeah, hi, Perception. Thank you for opening this space, and thank you
That's
for
okay.
having this beautiful co-host. So I'm from Holland, so excuse me if I have any, linguistic problems or if you have trouble understanding me.
Don't worry,
But,
we've already got one language, most of us, so you got more than one. You got one up on us already.
Thank you. So the thing is, I have had a youth in which I had contact with energies. Let me put it that way. Okay. So I have Turkish parents. At one point, they even, dragged me from one imam to another imam. These are all these, pastors or fathers from a church, then from a mosque. At one point, you just decide that, okay, there's something wrong with me, and you grow up. And what I find troubling is it had, considering looking back into my life, imaginal, that's my question to you. I've always been an honest person. If you want to hurt me, be dishonest. Well, basically, I fled Holland and found myself living in Turkey for 6 years, which I fled again because I realized I was nor a Muslim the way they taught me to be a Muslim. But the thing that I find troubling is, and I think I'm calling it upon myself, the world around us, the governments, they are all so distracting us of the true oneself, the truth, the reason why you are here. And I always thought as an educator that I had found my calling, help the youth, show them the path. And I come from a very poor family, and I climbed myself quite up high, but fighting against these energies, disabled, paralyzed for 2 years. And in those 2 years, I reconnected with myself, the one true energy. It may sound crazy, but I miss being disabled. I miss the feeling, the touch, the connection I had with everything that is non-material. So the moment I regained my health back, which was a miracle to the doctors, I started working again, and then again as a single mom, you get distracted, papers, bills, you name it, you call it. And disaster hit again, and currently I'm suffering from MS, multiple sclerosis. And I think, and that's my question, did I call it upon myself again by getting distracted from what the world has become, the rules, the bills, you name it, everything that is concerned with, look around. So my question is...
You get two more bites of the cherry, then I just beat you out to one side.
Well,
Ifer, yes, darling.
It's fine. I hear you. I hear you, sister. Okay.
It's almost... It's almost as if I'm wishing. I miss the connection I had during my illness when I was...
Yeah.
So how do I become evasive? How can I become that true oneself and have faith in... And I love that person I find when I'm ill.
Yes, those are your markers. Those are your inner markers. You started to build a map, inroads, a map in your inner consciousness. And those memories are there. Those frequencies are there as reminders for you. But the distractions first and foremost, forgive yourself immediately. Forgive yourself for this, oh, shoot, I forgot again, right?
I'm killing myself by not forgiving myself.
Yes, just forgive yourself because you're already forgiven. Trust me. This intelligence, this vast intelligence, is in absolute awe when they see who we are and all of our potential within, and how we have been distracted and derailed from the truth of who we are. Now, there's no time when it comes to this stuff. Just simply recognize it. Say, okay, I see it. I choose to return to that experience, that vibration again. I'm here and I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to start back in on that inner map. And don't wait for your outer circumstances in any case, for anyone. Don't wait for your outer circumstances to dictate to you what your reality is. It's you that chooses in any given present moment. It's you that chooses to engage with this divine presence that you are familiar with now, or to ignore it, right? And you're never judged for that. It's understood already, completely understood that this is tough, right? They know it's tough, but they also know how powerful you are and that you will turn in this direction again once you realize, hey, this is truly what I want. I know this is who I am. And so I'm here. Help me, guide me now. This is the inner dialogue.
I'm so scared of what I might invite.
You are far more powerful than any suggestion of evil or separation. This is part of the propaganda. This is part of the programming to keep us afraid and to keep us inside this false reality so that we will continue to perpetuate it. And believe me, there are plenty individuals that will continue to perpetuate this smaller reality. There, at a certain point, even if it's someone in your immediate family, at a certain point, we all have to make this choice as to whether we're going to expand or return back to a different version of the contraction on the next cycle. And the Maya talk about this, the Hopi talk about this in their own way. The calendar, these 13,000 year cycles, 26,000 year cycles, precession of the equinox, all of this factors in to these cycles. And this is the intersection that the elders point to in their own way of interpreting it, that this is an opportunity for, and this is also a mix of the messages that I've translated from this presence. We all have this opportunity now, and we're all going to be creating our own circumstances so that we can engage it requires will, our own individual will at this point, to turn inward, because the programming is so deep, so very deep.
It's horrible.
But it's
horrible
not
what they're
insurmountable.
doing.
Yeah, but it's rising above the victim mentality. We're transcending our victimhood because we're remembering at the same time what we are connected to. We are not alone. We are connected to this grid of light that supports us and enhances our being. Doesn't overcome us and tell us what to do. It just simply lifts us and enhances us into this wholeness once again. And it doesn't have to take a long time. It's all based on our attention and our willingness to rejoin this dialogue with our inner self or inner guide. I know Anthony Peake refers to this as the daemon. I don't have names for it. I have the experience of it. And so that's why I said when we were talking in the last talk with Anthony, I said, I'm more than happy to use whatever terms of the group that I'm with at the time so that we don't have a language barrier. But what I'm speaking about to you, Eifer, am I saying that right? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's Eifer.
Okay, Eifer. Okay. What I want to just emphasize to you and mirror back to you is you've made extraordinary progress in these inner landscapes. And we identify, you're identifying it with a time and a place and an experience from the past where you were disabled from the culture, from society, from the way that you had been, the path. You were shoved off the path. And this is what they have said, is that many of us, if we are not getting it and connecting with it on the inner levels, your outer world will shove you. You will get shoved. And this isn't, I'm not saying this to create or generate fear.
To help our research and understanding, leave Perceptions Today's podcast reviews, subscribe to the podcast, along with the other social media accounts, and share. Come and join our live events. That way we can get together and have thoughtful discussions along with advancing our understanding of concepts as we go along.